guys? It's Dark Skies back with another video, and I sound like I'm in an ancient Egyptian crypt thing that I'm not in, but I'm gonna pretend I am. So I'm here with Mr. Shadow Reaper, and these
What's
are ADHD signals or signs or whatever the hell you want to call it.
living with ADHD?
Yeah. So what's it? What is, in your opinion, what is it like living with ADHD?
Uh, I feel like it's so I sucked in school because of it because you can't understand a thing because you're hyper focusing on every little detail and you hyper focus on the wrong details, especially in school. Like I was the kid in history class to where if you tried to teach me anything about World War III, I would be hyper focused more on the caliber of bullets they were using.
You kind of sound like a serial killer, but not in an awful way. It's more of in like a
Well, I mean, like, how did they get the velocity that they did with the lack of technology,
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing?
like for sure. So, in like my opinion, my ADHD was I was never I was always focused on like my pen and paper. So whenever I had to take notes, it was always like scribbles, and they were like sad sketches because I'm sad all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's not my teacher's fault for being boring. Like yeah, they were obviously boring as high school, but in like my opinion, it wasn't it wasn't it wasn't my teacher's fault. Like it wasn't my the the study I was learning. It wasn't that fault. It was completely on me. Like I'm unmedicated ADHD. Like I don't take any medicine, so I
Yeah.
could go from playing video games to cleaning. And I mean, you live with me, you know. Whenever I clean, I just sit there and I clean and I clean and I clean. I
Yeah.
don't stop. So
Yeah.
it's
And
not.
I guess that actually kind of be a good segment into kind of describing it. It's like it's like hyper focus, like the entire house is super dirty, but you hyper focus on one singular stain on the counter.
Yeah,
Like you miss the entirety of the big picture because you hyper focus on one thing because it's the only thing that your brain enjoys focusing on.
yeah. But like, so my thing is, people think ADHD is only like hyperfixation. So there's a big part of ADHD that's like depression. And
Oh yeah.
I suffer from depression. It's no thing. I make music about depression. I talk about sad shit all the time. But like there's so much there ADHD is so deep. I don't know how they make a test for it. Like there's so much different stuff in ADHD that nobody can really you can't pinpoint one
Like topic of it.
yes, you cannot pinpoint one topic of ADHD because there's not one.
Right.
There's so many topics to ADHD. It's so big and so vague that nobody knows every single
Every
thing
single
of
detail
ADHD.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's so much to ADHD that it's there's just a lot to it. So like when I wake up in the morning, it's like, oh yeah, I can brush my teeth, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. Or like when I'm doing laundry, like laundry takes so freaking long to do. It's like an hour in between loads, and then you got to do this and that and this and that, and it's like, oh my god. So you get to a point where it's just like, okay, I gotta set like 15 alarms to wake up in the morning, and then you gotta set this and that, and make sure you have all this, and like I
Right.
have to set stuff to where I can see it.
Exactly. Because it's not a situation of, oh, I have to do this. It's a situation of, okay, I need to do this. This part plays a part in that. I need to make sure I have this.
Yeah,
Like, you fixate on every small detail instead of just looking at the big picture.
yeah. It's not
it's no longer doing laundry. It's okay, I need to make sure my car's running. I need to make sure I have enough gas. Do I have enough gas? Where's the nearest gas station? And
Yeah,
you go down that rabbit hole, and then when you finally come back, the next rabbit hole that comes up, you go straight down it, and it just continues until you finally.
your mic shut off, buddy.
Is it off still?
No, it's back on.
All right. But yeah, it's basically like a big thing of there are multiple rabbit holes to kind of jump through,
Yeah,
and it just depends on either you run out of rabbit holes to go down and you finally come to a decision, or it's you run out of time to do what you were trying to do in the first place.
yeah, for sure. And it's not even a bad it's not a bad thing at all to
Oh no.
like I write stuff down at work all the time. Like my boss will give me 18 things to do. Like, oh, you got to give me like 5 minutes to write all this down. Or
Right, 'cause otherwise I'll forget
yeah,
kind of
and
situation.
then you'll get to work tomorrow and you'll need the excavator that I was supposed to change the oil on, and like you can't use it now because I didn't change the oil or whatever.
Yeah,
It's so vague on that topic of if I don't write anything down, it's not gonna happen.
exactly. And I feel like that's a big misunderstanding that a lot of people run into about it is, oh, you just don't pay attention or stuff like that. And a lot of people will say that to people with ADHD, and it just makes the problem worse.
Yes, and like mood flips, mood changes,
Oh yeah.
all of that play a part. Like I could get so angry so fast over nothing, and I mean like you work in retail, like something could be so off that day. Like I just had a bad morning or whatever, and I'll just get so mad, and I have
Oh
to
yeah.
remind myself like this guy he doesn't
He's
play the
not
price.
responsible.
Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
responsible for the
My morning that I had.
yeah, yeah, basically like he's not responsible for the price of gas. D- does does he
Or the
really
fact that
care?
like my sandwich is smashed in my lunchbox because
Yeah,
it can be like the most minuscule things that
yeah,
will just throw us completely off.
yes, and my brain's like, oh, it's his fault, and like I gotta
Yeah.
remind myself that it's not totally like it's not his fault at all that my sandwich was smashed whenever I woke up this morning, or I just had a bad morning. It's not his fault. It's not her fault. It's not their fault. It's not anybody's fault but my own because I put a Mountain Dew on top of my lunchbox or on top of my sandwich in my lunchbox.
Right.
There's just so
And
much to
to kind
to
of go off
yeah,
of.
yeah. We're kind of going off topic, but we're on ADHD. So is there really an off topic to this?
No, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're both still kind of going off of the fact that, it's minuscule things
Yeah,
that can grab the attention of people with ADHD, and for anybody who's out there who has a friend with ADHD, like you have to be super patient with them.
yeah. Like you have to be super patient with me. It's not.
Right.
It's not. I have to remind myself like it's not your fault. You didn't see that you dribbled a little ramen noodle juice on the counter or whatever.
Right.
You know, like I have to remind myself like okay that annoys the shit out of me, but it's not his fault. Like look at you fried bacon and you missed a little splash of bacon that fell on the stove. Like it's
Right.
it's
We have to
not.
remind ourselves like everybody's still human.
Yeah, yeah, basically. And that kind of goes into like the whole bipolar thing. Is I'm bipolar shit. I mean, my mood will
Right.
switch in zero point 0.5 seconds, and it's not anybody's fault that I flip shit on the retail guy because he pissed me off, or it's not anybody's fault that I'm bipolar. It's not a bad thing. Um, I have to go through motions, and my daily habits, and that's kind of the part of the reason that life goes the way it does is because it's just how it is. I'm bipolar. It's not a
It's nobody else's fault kind of
yeah
deal.
yeah. Which I
It's
guess
one of
that's
those things where it's hard to live with, but it's something we just have had to learn to live with in the end.
yeah. Like I guess that's kind of like the main premise of people not people not knowing what any of this is.
Right. That's why we wanted to talk about it because I mean this is a huge learning thing for anybody.
Yeah, like
Because
for
I
sure.
mean,
I
my
could stub my
buddies,
toe and I'll be
at,
pissed off all day.
right, and that's the thing. Like it can be that one minuscule thing, but I mean that could force you to be pissed off at everybody in the world
Yeah. Or I could do something stupid. Like
and be mad at just like the entire world.
yeah. Yeah. Not even just be mad at the entire world, it's just do something stupid. Like there's a show. Uh I can't think of it, but there's a bipolar guy in there, and they depicted what the bipolar disorder is so perfect, and it's gonna kill me because I can't remember the name, but they depicted what bipolar disorder was so perfect that it almost made me cry because it was just so spot on. It was so spot on in how they depicted it and how they did everything right. Like that's how I live my daily life is just
Right.
how how this character acted and talked and did everything. Is it just it made everything so real.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot more people should be doing stuff like that in their shows is kind of looking at real world disorders and different things like that. Like don't get me wrong, I like me a good like fantasy nonsense show,
Oh, for
but
sure.
even then you can still totally implant like an ADHD character or somebody who's like suffering from anything or not even suffering, dealing because I don't want to say that we suffer, but I do feel like it can be a struggle to deal with some of the things that we do.
Oh, for sure. It's not every day is a struggle. I mean, if you kind of look at it in that way, but
Yeah,
it's not like a bad struggle. It's more of just like an extra hurdle.
exactly. And I feel like that's what um, makes people with those kind of things a bit stronger in a sense because I mean we've gone through all kinds of different things. We've gone through different problems in our lives. We've had to go through all these extra details in our stories that made life what it is for us.
Yeah, yeah. Like my life was so screwed up before, like probably 2 years ago. My life was so screwed up that it just changed me into like the quiet guy. Like I didn't talk in school. I mean, yeah, like I goofed off and whatever, but I was always like the stoner kid that nobody really talked to, and that was fine with me. I was just living my life how I wanted to live it, basically,
Yeah,
and smoking dope and listening to music and writing music. And I have this friend that I used to write music with, and that's how my life was. And it eventually it did change me, but it's not like it changed me for worse. It definitely
right.
changed me for it changed me to be a better human
Version of
being,
yourself.
yeah, than I was.
And I feel like that's something all of us should just strive for is just try to be a better version of yourself now.
Yeah,
No matter what's going on, I promise you that there's going to be somebody out there who understands or somebody out there who's willing to help. It's just being able to actually find those resources.